Okay. Hello, Elaine. How are you?
Good. How are you doing, darling?
I am fabulous. I want to start off and just say thank you so much for joining in the conversation today and for joining me. It just means so much, just to share a little bit about yourself and your story. And I know our listeners are just going to love hearing you and learning from you as well.
Absolutely. It's my pleasure to be here. So excited.
Awesome. So, just so you know who we have today, I am here with Elaine Turso. She is also known as Elaine the Brain, just in case you do not know who she is. But she is an entrepreneur, she is an author, and she is an empty nester as well. So, we will dive a
Mm,
little bit into that.
yes.
Welcome to the show today.
Thanks. I am I haven't really had an opportunity yet to really dive into what being an empty nester is like. So this will be
Oh my
great
gosh.
conversation.
Yeah, I can't wait to even hear because I am not there yet. But
Mhm.
I'm sure that there's listeners that we will have listening to this that are in the same boat as you and just kind of what that transition looks like. So let's just
Mhm.
dive into like your story and your journey, wherever you want to kind of start sharing a little bit. If you want to share
Yeah.
before becoming a mom and kind of where you
Yeah.
want to jump right into like what's an empty nester?
Yeah.
Where do you
So
want
I became a mom at 19.
Okay.
I became a mom at 19. And not with the right guy either, right? Not with the right guy, but I would not trade my daughter for anything in the world, right? So having a child at 19 really forced me to grow up, right? And I had been accepted to college, I graduated high school, and 3 months after,
Yeah.
pregnant, right? And so I did not go to college because I was like, how am I going to run off to San Francisco and live in one of the most expensive cities in the world, go to college and raise a child? Am I going to live in my car? Like, how is that going to work? And I was like, you know what? I feel like that's not the best choice. I feel like that is not the best choice for me. So I stayed in town. I didn't leave and wound up, getting a job and just working for the man.
Yeah.
And when she was a year and a half old, I met my husband at the club.
Oh
And
boy.
it's actually a really funny story because we went to high school together, but we were never introduced to each other. We had the same friends. Both of our best friends got married to each other. We were supposed to be in their wedding together, but he was not able to be there. So I would have met him then because we would have walked down the aisle together.
Wow. Oh my
And
gosh.
then I met him because my other best friend was leaving for England. Her high school sweetheart joined the Air Force, and we were just going out for one last girls' night out, right? And we went to go dancing. And back when there were dancing clubs, there's not really any of those around anymore. And he was there, had just gotten out of the army and knew, like I said, we have the same friends, but we were never officially introduced to each other, and kind of had a crush on him because he was like the jock, the star football player and whatever. But I'm like, yeah, no, I'm just this little sophomore,
Yeah.
whatever. No, I'm not going to be noticed. My hair was definitely long and blonde like yours, long down to my butt. I
Oh
was
my God. I
not.
want to see pictures. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Yeah. So definitely not a visible person, right? That's really putting myself out there like I do now. And he came out and started dancing with us and had, come up to say hello to my friend Nikki. And I'm like giving her the elbow, hello, introduce me, girl code, right? You just
Yeah.
go, you just do they know, we
Yeah.
know, we know what's going on.
Sure.
And so he came out to dance with us. And I was just like, oh my gosh, like, I cannot believe that I'm dancing with like this guy that I had a crush on in high school. And 3 years later, our son was born to the date,
Gosh.
to
Wow.
the date. Like, it is the weird serendipitous kind of stuff. Yeah, it totally happened. And, but he has been with my daughter and I since she was a year and a half old. And every single day, like, he kind of filled in. And even though her bio dad was in the picture, my husband stepped in, and I remember one year she wrote him a Valentine and said, "Is it okay if I call you dad?"
Oh my
Like,
God.
get out with the cuteness. And you're just like, oh my God, right? Like, she did that on her own. She wanted to, and it was the cutest thing ever.
Yeah.
And so it's just, I don't know, their relationship is really, really cool.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I love that. So then you had your son. So then your daughter was 4.5 years
So
old.
she was about 5 when we
Okay.
got married. And then I was a few months pregnant at the wedding. And I actually have this really cute picture where she was like, we were doing our first dance at our little wedding, our little, hitched wedding. And she's over to the side, just head down, pouting, super sad face. And so my husband goes over and picks her up, and she joins us on our first dance.
Oh,
Like, get out,
yeah.
get out. And so, yeah. And so my daughter is now 24,
Okay.
and my son is almost 20.
Oh my gosh.
He is in college. Yeah. So it was really interesting. My daughter was, I used to joke that I wanted to put her in a convent because she was totally naughty. She was a naughty teenager. And
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, this is karma. Is this what karma looks like for being a terrible teenager myself? Like, is this what karma looks like? It was, they're like, my kids are literally night and day. Like, my daughter was the boundary pusher. She was, ugh.
Yeah.
And my son was just like, sup, like, you want to hang out? Mama's boy.
Oh, I was gonna say mama's boy.
Totally a mama's boy. Still, like, when he was home, I still got hugs every single day from my kid, from a boy, right?
Yeah.
Normally, yeah, no, he just is, I don't know, he's just different. And it was like a complete night and day experience.
Yeah. Was there a big transition? So my husband was married before. So I have a 28-year-old bonus son myself. And then, so I met Slater when he was 9. And then we have 2 kids together. So all boys. So I have a 12, a 15, and then a 28-year-old bonus son. So I remember going through when Slater was 9, and then so he was 12, I think, when Jackson was born. How did your daughter react when you had your son? Like, I mean, I know girls and boys are different. So girls are maybe like the mothering, like, oh my God,
Oh,
like
she
baby
was
doll.
such a mother.
How did that go? Like, did that
Yeah.
transition well? And was she excited?
Yeah.
And
She was such a mother at 5 years old. She was the mother. She was, here, mom, let me help you. She would, go get me diaper. She would help me. She was the helper.
yeah.
She was the little supervisor. Mom's going to take a shower. Okay, mom, I'll stay here with the baby. Like, oh yeah, she was such a good big sister.
Yeah.
And when my daughter turned 18, she went that day on her birthday and got her brother's birth date tattooed in Roman numerals on her body.
What?
Yeah. So
Wow.
like, they are like, yeah, even though growing up, Anthony is in my room, Anthony's touching my stuff. Like, they literally were like that age where he wants to be with his sister and her friend, and she's like, no, leave us alone. All the fighting that kids do, they did it.
Yeah.
But then something shifted when they got older and we're like, in high school. Things started shifting a little bit, and they started becoming like pals. And it was like us versus them. It was like, let's gang up on mom and dad together, and let's see what we can get away with. And they were keeping secrets and like doing, the sibling stuff. But that girl loves her brother so freaking much. She will do anything for him.
Oh my gosh, that is so sweet. Now, when she graduated from high school, did she go to college? Did she go to
No,
college?
she
Yep.
was a nanny working as a barista and a waitress and stuff like that, and then happened to go with a friend to purchase a car, and she was being a little sassy. I don't know where she gets it from.
Don't know.
No. And they were like, "Hey, do you want to work here?" So she got hired to
Wow.
be a car saleswoman and has been promoted several times and is the youngest used car sales manager female ever to be at Toyota in this area. So she makes enough money that she is like, why go to college when I'm making more money than I would if I had a college degree? So she is in the process of buying her house right now. She is renting this house on the water and is in the process of purchasing it.
And I think that's like the difference in our age range, right? Like when we were growing up, and then your kids growing up, and they're in their 20s, almost, your son's almost in his 20s, but in their 20s practically. Like our mentality was, you go to high school. When you're done high school, you go to college. When you graduate from college, that's the rest of your life. That is what you are going to spend doing whatever you decided to do when you were 18, 19 years old. That's what you do the rest of your life. Where
Right.
this generation is so different, and they are entrepreneurial, and it's like, you don't have to go to college necessarily to have an amazing career.
Right.
I think that is just so interesting how different the times have shifted away from what we grew up with.
Right. I have been a really huge proponent to my kids and I told my daughter, I said, here's the thing. You can go to college at any age. And so really what I want you to do is I want you to go explore the world, and I want you to figure out who you are and what interests you have. And if you find a career that says, oh my God, I really want to be a therapist, right? Then go get a degree to be a therapist. But because you've had life experiences and really like figured out who you are and what interests you. My son, like the complete opposite, right? Where he's like, knows, while he was in high school, he fell in love with working out. And he's an athlete and is going to college on a football scholarship. But he only got there because of his commitment to working out at the gym and getting stronger and like building his building. And so he's like, this is what I want to do. I want to be a trainer for athletes, and this is what I want to do. And I'm like, okay. And he's like, for boys, I always feel like the options are join the military or go to college. Like, it's just this like thing that is this like expectation of boys. I don't know why that is, but it just feels like, because my husband was like, that was his choice, was go into the military or go get a job. And he decided to go into the military to kind of get out of town and go be a man, right? And the whole macho thing. And so I feel like that kind of is this pressure among boys that they have to, like, one of their options is to join the military.
Yeah.
And so he decided getting a scholarship to play football was like, okay, well, if they're going to pay for most of my education, then I'm going to go do that, and I'm like, thank God, so yeah, that's what he's doing. And it's just so, I don't know, the mentality or this, like, I know what I want to be when I grow up. Alexis, my daughter, kind of knew she wanted to, I think every kid wants to be in sports medicine. She loved it. She was good at it in high school, and her teacher encouraged her and all that stuff. And then, she's applying to colleges, and then it was like, okay, I got accepted in this school. And I'm like, okay, but how are you going to pay for it? Because you haven't done any of the work to figure out, and I'm not responsible for your college education. It's your life. You're responsible for your college education. That's how I will support you. I will send you money. I will help you in all the ways that I can. But I was not in a position as an entrepreneur. I didn't have an extra $36,000 a year to pay for my kids' education. And I'm like, but what have you done? And so she was like, well, I guess I'm not going to go to college. And now, I mean, sports medicine is the farthest thing from her mind, because
Right.
now she's found she's really good at sales,
Yeah. Yeah.
you
Well,
know?
I'm curious to know, because you said your path was to go to college and then you didn't go because then having your daughter. I'm curious to know, what were you going to college for?
I got accepted to FIDM, which is the Fashion Institute of Design and Merchandising.
Okay.
So I thought, and I'm so glad that I didn't, because I really had no idea. I thought that being a fashion buyer was the coolest thing in the world, to go to the runway shows and then decide what clothes are going to be put in the stores. Little did I know that really being a fashion buyer involves a lot of math. So it's a really good thing that I did not wind up that with. But plus, that career has a lot of travel. And
Yeah.
so I don't know how I would have really done that being a single mom. You know what I
Right.
mean? So it was not my path.
Yeah.
The
And that's
universe said, no, this is really not the path that you really want to take. So
Yeah, and that's what I was thinking too. It's like, so many times then we can look at that and think bad things, or like, oh my gosh, this is horrible and this isn't what I want to do. But then it actually can lead you to the best, then the best journey that you're ever on.
yes.
Just
Yeah.
shifting that mindset, which maybe you didn't know back then,
Mm-hmm.
and you might have been upset, but then you had your daughter and then you met your
Right.
husband
Yeah.
and all those
Mm-hmm.
things started to happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
My
let's jump
life would have been
into
very different.
yeah, right. So let's jump into empty nester. Like, let's just
Yeah.
talk a little bit about that and the transition into that. First, your daughter, was she living at home while she was, working and at the car dealership and stuff for a little bit?
She worked, she lived at home for a little while. And then once she was like, you know what, I make enough money that I can live on my own. And it's actually really funny. I joke around and say, like, the day she moved out, I was like, thank God. I love my daughter, but the two of us living together is no, like, I love her. She's one of my best friends. Like, I love my daughter so much, but us living together is like cats and dogs, because I'm like, stop touching my stuff.
Yeah,
When I would take my mom's eyeliner, I put it back.
yeah. Oh my
She
God.
doesn't know how to put things back. And
Yeah,
so it was like
that's
a
hers.
war between us all the time. It was fighting and our yelling and arguing all the time. And it was finally like, once she moved out she skipped over having the first shitty apartment experience and was renting a waterfront condo.
Oh my gosh.
Okay. And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Your rent is more than my mortgage.
Oh
Like,
my
what?
gosh.
Yes. So,
Oh, good for her.
yeah. And then she moved into a little POS, a little house that didn't have heat, didn't have an oven, like so she didn't stay there long, because I'm like, no, we got to get you out of here. Like,
Yeah.
this is not
Yeah.
good. So we got her out of there, and now she lives in this little cute little house, like I said, that she's trying to buy. And so it's also, she loves the water. So she has, and we're surrounded by water here in Washington. So everywhere she's lived, she has been by the water, and it is like, it just is it's her thing. And so yeah, the day she moved out, I was at the salon getting my hair done. I was just like, woohoo, like,
Yeah.
but I'll do anything I can for my kids, but it was like, and now this room I'm in was her bedroom, and I converted it into my office.
Yeah.
And it's I don't know, it was good. It was good. It improved our relationship for her to be out on her own, and she still calls me and says, Mom, how do I turn on the power? you
Yeah.
know, when she needs help, I'm the first one she calls, you know what I mean? So, yeah, it improved our relationship, her moving out. And at first I was like, oh man, I miss her so much, yada, yada, yada. I still see her almost every day, because she has a dog, and she brings him over every morning before work. So he hangs out with me all day. because she works really long hours and it's just not fair for him to be by himself all day long. So I'm doggy daycare and I'm not complaining about it because I love that dog so much. It's like my grandchild.
Yeah, something that I've like heard and just curious about too, because so much, so you've had just about 20 years now, 25, like with your daughter too, but of a child being in your home and then having a relationship with your spouse and your husband. I'm curious because I've heard so many just discussions about once your kids are gone, then do you like get to know each other again? Like, because
Yes.
I'm just curious about that.
Yeah.
Because I haven't gotten there yet,
Yeah.
but so much of your time is spent with your kids or activities.
Yeah.
It's like football.
Mm-hmm.
You're busy, and now it's like now what?
Now what? Exactly. Now what? Like literally. Okay. Now what? Now it's just the two of us, and we have to fill the silence. And what do we do? And who are you? And who am I? And so it took us a little bit of adjustment. Like, this is weird. It was weird at first. And it was like, hi. And so we had to kind of develop a new routine. But one of the things that my husband, I think is a secret to our successful marriage. And I always just joke around and I tell him it would just take too much effort to train somebody new. So I guess I'll keep him. I know it's just too much work to train somebody else. Is that we have our own separate interests, so he loves football, he coaches football, he loves playing video games. I have my own business, and he's always been, and then I have my polka dot stuff, and he's just always been very supportive of me exploring and chasing my dream, and, making sure that the family had income in order so that I could do what I wanted to do. And I will never be able to repay him for that, that he gave me the grace and space to do what made me happy. Even though that was scary, there was a lot of fear involved in that. Like, what happens if you don't make income this month? Like all that kind of stuff happening. But he just always was so supportive. And so we have our separate interest and then we have our together interests. And so the one of the foundational things of our relationship when we first got together was we both loved the same music. And so I'm like, you know what? That means we don't have to fight over the radio in the car.
Right.
Cool. Right. If I crank up the music if we're, cooking dinner or whatever, he ain't complaining. Because he's like, yeah, rocking out, woohoo,
Yeah.
So it has allowed us to, be who we are and then come together and do things together that we both love food. So we're like, ooh, let's go try this we love to go try new foods at restaurants. And it was actually something as our kids got older, we started doing this thing where when my daughter's days, they actually had the same days off. And so it was like a Sunday night and we would go to a brand new restaurant. And it was like we were out exploring different foods and everybody got to pick and say, like, go find and if it was like within a 2-hour radius, it was good, right? We were willing to leave our area and go try other places. And so that was really cool. Something that we did as a family when the kids got older. And so, we love food. So we've continued this thing of going out and trying new food. And then my husband and daughter both have one day off together. Right. And so we still try to get together, the three of us, and go and find something, a new restaurant to go try or something like that. We just did that earlier this week. We went to this really yummy place and I was like, oh my God, it was so good. And none of us had ever been there before.
Yeah.
So we try to figure out what do we have in common. And we love to sit around and watch. We love to watch movies. We love to watch TV shows together. We're really good. We will not watch episodes without the other, because that's like blasphemous.
So hard.
Right. So we have an 8:00 date. 8:00 date means we're watching whatever show until he goes to bed, but that he has time to go play his video games and hang out with his virtual friends. And I do sit around and scroll TikTok videos because that's what I love to do. I love TikTok videos. Show me all the dogs.
Yeah.
I'm good. Just show me all the dog videos and I'm good. Like, I'm in my happy place. Right. So I don't know. I feel like it has allowed us to, have that independence, but then come together and do those common interests has really helped us sustain a happy marriage. But we did have to kind of like get to know each other without the kids. And it was difficult and challenging. And sometimes like, I don't know what to talk about.
Yeah, because the kids are kind of like a barrier, right?
They are.
Like, they're like, oh, well, what are the kids doing? And so
it was always about the kids.
Yeah.
It was always about the kids. And so it was like, I don't really know what to say. Like, do we have anything left to talk about?
Right.
So, but because we have separate interests, it allows us to gather conversation topics to bring to, so we have something to talk about.
Right. And not like, hey, let's talk about the kids again.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. I was wondering about that because I've heard a lot of people talk about that. You're kind of like, do we like each other? Do we still like each other?
Right.
Kids aren't around. Like, are we still like good? Because we haven't really had much time together if you haven't made that a priority also while you're raising your kids, because let's be honest, life is crazy. And a lot of the time we put ourselves last as women. And then sometimes your relationship is like dead, almost next to dead last. So, it's a lot of rediscovering.
I've had so many people that as soon as the kids graduated high school and they were like, okay, we're going to get a divorce now. Like they were staying together for the kids. Yeah. And I'm like, oh man, because that was a lot of silent, awkward household stuff. And the kids know, like, they know that something is off. You know what I mean? So I don't really agree with let's stay together for the kids. Like, you have to do things to nurture your marriage because it will benefit your kids in the long run, and you can't just stay together for the kids. I feel like you're doing them a disservice. You're showing them what an unhealthy relationship looks like.
Right.
You're demonstrating that.
Right. And then like not putting yourself first, you know what I mean? Like you're putting somebody else first versus like your wants and needs. And that things change, people change and situations change in life. I mean, gosh, what we went through the last like 2 years and everything too. And so it's, it's really, I feel like communication is so key in any relationship, and that can sometimes be put to the side.
Yes.
And then resentment starts, and then upset, and then you're like, well, whatever, we just won't talk about it. And then, excuses come up, and then you're just in separate rooms all the time. And so communication is just such a key in any relationship.
Yes. My husband and I recently had to have, sometimes I'm like, okay, we have to have a hard conversation. And there's this thing that men have, that they are responsible for our happiness. And I had to tell my husband, you're not responsible for my happiness. I am. And I'm not responsible for your happiness. You are. So you have to figure out what makes you happy and do the thing that makes you happy, with or without me. And then we have two individually happy people coming together to have a happy, successful marriage. And if one person is happy and one person is miserable, how's that working?
Right.
So stop thinking that your job in this marriage is to make me happy. Let's remove that expectation off of ourselves, because that is unrealistic. You cannot be responsible for my happiness.
Yeah.
Can't.
Yeah.
Like, it's not fair. It's not a fair expectation to put on somebody. So you got to figure out as an individual what makes me happy, what lights me up, and do the thing. And if that means that it means doing that without your partner, but you have to, like, we only get one life, right? And being miserable to me it's just not worth. Why?
Yeah.
Why would I want to just be miserable all the time? Like, what kind of life is that? But it also means that you have to make hard decisions and hard choices, and doing something that's maybe outside of your comfort zone to be happy means that I have to do something I've never done before. I have to try something I've never done before. And sometimes that may mean that you need to take a break and say, I need to go find out what brings me joy again. So I'm going to go do that. It's not that I don't love you, but I need to figure out who I am. And then let's reconvene and reevaluate. Not that I've done that, but I would highly suggest it for someone who is sitting there going, what the hell am I doing?
Yeah.
Like, I feel like after a certain point, there's this light switch that clicks on for women where all of a sudden they're like, why am I miserable? And I'm putting everyone else first. I hate my body. I don't like who I am. I don't even know who I am anymore. What the hell is this about? Then all of a sudden, like, okay, I'm going to love myself and I'm going to appreciate my body. I'm going to celebrate my body. And I saw this because, a few years ago, I was a boudoir photographer for 10 years. So I noticed this like trend that women were about like 33 to like 45 were like, F this, I'm going to do something for myself for once in my life. And it was their like coming out of their shell moment was to have this very intimate photo shoot done where they were like taking down the shield and saying, this is me.
Yeah.
Right. And it was terrifying for them. I know it was terrifying for them, but it's like, why do we wait so long to put ourselves first? Why do we wait so long to love ourselves? Why do we wait so long to take care of ourselves? I don't understand, but it's like, I don't know, man. I just feel like we need to, if you're listening to this in your 20s, start right now. Just don't wait. Just decide right now that you are going to do the most loving thing that you can do for yourself. And that is to put yourself first.
Yeah.
Put on your oxygen mask first. Be selfish. Get up an hour early if you need to have time to yourself. Do what you need to do, but do not wait till the end of the day to take care of yourself. Because by that time you are spent, you are exhausted. Do it first thing in the morning.
Yeah, because we do. I mean, that's as women and moms, we do things for everyone else first. And so, exactly like what you were saying, if we don't fill our cups first, you are only with yourself 24 hours a day. Yep. Nobody else are you with. So you better like yourself because you're not going to get rid of yourself. You are right there. You're looking yourself in the mirror or you're not looking yourself in the mirror. You aren't getting rid of yourself. And so learning to love yourself, I feel like that is the hardest thing, to truly, authentically do it and not just say it. Oh, I love myself. And not just a mantra, but it's like to truly love like your wrinkles and your skin and your hair and your imperfections and all the things that make you that you're not trying to change. Like that is the hardest thing. And it is like such a practice. No one will ever, I feel like, have it perfect. And there will always be days when you are judging something of yourself. But that is truly like the biggest gift that you can give yourself, because you're not getting rid of yourself. Like you are with yourself all day long.
Yep. You were given a body, right? And there's a book that I love that I reference a lot. It's an old book too. It was like way back in Oprah's book club, right? It's called If Life is a Game, These Are the Rules. And rule number 1 is you will be given a body. You will be given a body. You don't get to choose your body, but it's your body and your job is to take care of it.
Yeah.
And, so you have to love it unconditionally. And even though your body is not perfect, I don't know anybody's whose is, You cannot compare your body to anyone else's body. You cannot say, I wish my body looked like her body, because it won't ever happen. So stop wasting your energy trying to look like photoshopped women in magazines. That is unrealistic and not even attainable. And just decide that I'm going to love my flabby stomach. I'm going to love my stretch marks, and because my stomach allowed me to carry my children.
Yep.
My flabby arms allow me to hug my children tight. My stretch marks show the journey that I have been on, right? They are my battle wounds, and I don't care. My body is like, it's mine, and I'm going to love it and not put these unrealistic expectations on it, because that's not fair to do to it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I love that. I've never heard of that book before.
It's a really good one. It is a really good one. And it's got just there's 10 rules, and I love all of them. I think of them often, and I talk about them often, because they really just are kind of like rules to live by.
Yeah. And the thing is, it's probably they're like simple, right? It's
They're
probably like
so
back to
simple.
the basics. Like, okay, you have a body. Like,
Yeah.
okay. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
that's true. I mean,
Yeah.
they're probably like, it's probably nothing mind blowing, but it's just that reminder that you need to be like, oh my God, I forgot that I need to love myself.
Mhm.
Cool.
It's like the 4 agreements, right? It's so simple, but so impactful.
Yeah. Cool.
Mhm.
I wanted to ask you too, because you talked about this, with a little bit when you were talking about your husband and him earning money and like being able so that you could, be home and do these entrepreneur things. I know that you just talked about, being a photographer for 10 years. How do you transition with all of these different things? Like, how do you give yourself permission to try something that maybe you don't know if it's going to work out, and to have that courage to be like, you know what, I'm going to do this. Like, how do you do that?
It's a lot of internal work. I'm not even gonna lie. Like it literally comes down to, I'm scared, but I know that I can do hard things. And what's the worst thing that could happen? Am I gonna be homeless if this doesn't work out? No,
Yeah.
I'm not. I'm not gonna be homeless. I'm not gonna be homeless. So I really just have to like talk myself into that. And so when I went from having a job to wanting to be a full-time photographer, it really was about replacing my income. And if I could replace my income, then go for it. And that's what my husband told me. He's like, if you can contribute the same amount of what your paycheck was bringing in, I don't care how you do it.
Yeah.
And so that's what I did, and it took me, had I had, a business coach, I probably would have gotten there a lot sooner, but I did what I could, and I put myself in situations that would scare me. And I took advantage of the opportunities that came knocking on my door, instead of saying, oh, no, I'm not ready. Not ready yet. So come back another time. It doesn't work that way. When you tell the universe that you want something, guess what happens? It starts giving you opportunities to take it.
Right.
But it's only going to give them to you so many times. And then I decided one time when I realized that, wow, if I don't listen, it will hit me over the head with a 2x4 and it will knock me down. So when I was like, man, I would really love to have my own studio, because I had a studio in my house, guess what started happening? Opportunities started presenting themselves. And I was like, oh, wow, okay, this is happening. And then I get a call from a woman who owned a vintage clothing store. She was like, I really love your energy. It would be so cool if you wanted to have a studio here in my shop. Okay. Then all of a sudden I'm like, man, I was there for a year. Like, wow, I would really love to have my own studio so that I could do photo shoots whenever I wanted to, versus when customers are not going to be here. Then all of a sudden I get a phone call. Hey, I would love for you to photograph this painting I have in this house. That it was a house that I was like, wow, that'd be so cool to photograph in that house because it's so much light coming in there. And the dude that owned the house calls me.
It's insane.
And I'm in this house going, wow, I could have, okay, yeah. Okay, but how am I going to do that? How am I going to afford $2,000 a month? I don't know how I'm going to do that. Then all of a sudden it was, hey, did you know the Chamber of Commerce has a space above it for rent? What? So everything just kept coming at me and just forcing me to consider the possibilities. And even though that opportunity may not have been the right opportunity, allowed me to consider the possibilities and say, it's possible.
Yeah.
It's possible. And just trusting yourself that you may not know how. All you need to know is why. You don't have to know the how. I'm a figure it out as you go kind of person. I will jump in the deep end and then try to figure out how to swim later. Like, I don't have to know how I'm going to do it. I just need to know why I want to do it. And that is strong enough for me to move forward and just figure it out as I go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, but you have to try. You have to decide, like, if I get one life to live, how do I want to be remembered? How do I want to show up? How do I want to make an impact in the world? Then I need to get my ass in gear and do it.
Yeah.
Just do it.
Just do it.
Do it.
All right. Well, I want to start wrapping it up because we could literally sit here all day.
I know.
You have to come back again, we'll like have a part 2. But is there any advice? I mean, you've shared so much amazing, tidbits and wisdom. Is there anything else, that maybe that you haven't shared that you think is just really important for moms, where it could be with their kids, with their, passions, with their career, going for it? Anything maybe that you wanted to share that maybe you haven't?
I would say one of the best things that I used to do with my kids, was we would have, my husband at the time worked swing shift. And so sometimes he wouldn't get home till late, and I would have visiting hours in our bed, which meant that the kids could come and visit and talk about anything they wanted to talk about. So they could come in and share about, I don't know, there was just something about laying in bed together that just made them ask hard questions, or, I want to talk to you about something that is kind of bothering me, and I'm kind of scared to talk to you about it, or whatever.
Yeah.
But having these visiting hours really helped me have a really super open relationship with my kids. And when it came to, social media kind of became a thing with my daughter growing up. I was like, where's my handbook? Because I don't know how to navigate this uncharted territory. We didn't have social media when I was a kid. Right. So how the heck do I navigate this? And my 13-year-old wanting a cell phone, like what? I mean, now everybody, but at the time it was like, why do kids need cell phones?
Right.
It cost me 25 cents every time you want to text somebody. Okay.
Come on.
Right? So it just allowed them to feel comfortable to talk to me about all the hard things, know? Yeah. And my husband and I had agreed that no matter what the kids if they ever came, we didn't keep secrets from each other. So the kids may not know that we know certain secrets, but it was like the pact that we had, that if the kids came to you and shared something, personal or private, that even though we still need to know as the parent, like what's going on, So, but don't tell dad. Okay. I won't tell dad.
Yeah.
But I'm still, because he's my partner and he's a parent and he deserves to know what's going on with his kids just as much as I do.
Right.
So enable office hours. That would be a tip that I would give, because it just will solidify that relationship as they become teenagers. And then know that when they become teenagers, you are going to hate them, and it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
They are just, they're going to push every boundary. They're really trying to figure out who they are. And they're taking a little piece of each of their friends so that they could try to fit in with everyone, and they become unrecognizable to you.
Yeah.
And just know when they are not in your presence, they are going to swear. So just be aware that that is a thing, that the pressures that these teenagers have is unfreaking believable. And when I tell you, my daughter, you know, one of the draws of having a cell phone was that, you know, boys at school would ask her, do you send nudes?
Yeah.
And we had taught her very young that, you know, if you send those kind of pictures, you could be charged with distributing child pornography because you're considered a child. And even though he's a child too, it doesn't matter. The law doesn't look at it that way. So my daughter would respond by sending old lady boobs.
That's
So
hilarious.
comedy was a super thing in our house. Like everything was a lot of sarcasm, a lot of humor. And we try to make jokes as much as possible to kind of lighten any tension. But I don't know, it just allowed us. I never would have known that had I not had open office hours in the bed. My daughter would have, I don't know that she would have come to me and shared that stuff with me, that stuff was happening.
Yeah. Well, and it was a lot different with with my stepson versus my kids, because there was such a big gap, and we didn't have to go through the cell phone thing. Cause I'm like, that wasn't really a thing. And so I hear a lot of this stuff from my siblings. So my sister and my brother have older kids. And so my nieces and nephews would talk about things, and I would be like, what is happening? Like, what did someone ask you to do? Because I was just shocked. And so we've had those conversations too. And like, it's a privilege to have a cell phone. It is not a need. You don't really need it, really.
Right.
It's a privilege, and I'm paying for it, and I do check it. So just so you know, but kind of putting those things out there too, like you can be arrested. Like, this is what this is.
Yeah.
And what you think you delete it, but it's out there. They could have screenshot it, and they've got it on their phone for the world to see.
Yeah.
So, it's just a different time to grow up.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And, interesting thing, like my daughter sometimes would get grounded and her phone would be taken away. And she would always say, Mom, thank you for taking it away, because it's just sometimes their brains are not yet developed to really comprehend right and wrong. And we give them a phone with internet access to, basically you have access to anything you want to see, including all the bad stuff.
Yeah.
And we are giving them way too much at way too young and thinking that they know the difference. They do not. You actually have to teach them. Yeah. Don't assume that your children know. You have to physically tell them and remind them constantly and put protections in place and things like that. Because guess what? Boys like boobs, and they're going to type in boobs on their Google search because boys like boobs and they want to see them because they're teenage boys.
Yeah.
And to think that they're not is, boy, don't be delusional. Do not be delusional. Your children are going to hide stuff. They're going to try to keep stuff from you. And just know that it's going to happen, and that they are going to be completely different than the way that they are at home. They're going to be completely different when they are with their friends.
Yeah.
They have like split personality.
Yeah. That's great advice for sure. Mm-hmm. I noticed that as well. And it is true about the whole teenager thing where you're just like, whew,
they are going to test you, and you'll be like, where's the convent? Because lock them up.
Yeah, there's been, and especially with last year and COVID and being stuck in a home.
Oh my goodness.
No sports and no activities. I was like, what are we going to do here? What are we going to do here? So yeah.
My son spent more time walking the dog just to get out of my house. Yeah. Take the pug for a walk.
And just like, you need separation. Like, we need separation.
Yeah. And I get it. You want to be mom, you want to be with your kids all the time, but no, like, it's okay to let your kids, like, teach them to be independent. My kids knew how to do their own laundry. They could do their own. My son, COVID, I'm going to tell you this right now. My son learned to cook because of COVID, because he didn't have football, because football was already over. COVID hit in March. Football was already over. It was his senior year. And we were getting HelloFresh delivered so that we could limit our time going to the grocery store. And I'm like, would you like to learn how to cook? They have it tells you step-by-step instructions. My son learned to cook because of COVID.
Wow.
And now he's at college and he knows how to cook things.
Yeah, you got to look for the silver linings for sure. Like there's definitely silver linings.
Yeah, right. So don't do all the things for them. Teach them how to do it on their own. Teach them to fish.
Yeah. And I think also use the brain, because like my kids are always like, oh, how should I get this in here? What do you think I should do here? And I'm like, what do you think you should do? Like,
right.
What's your thought on this? Like, I could tell you what I think. I could tell you how to do it, but like, what do you think? Like, what do you think about the situation?
Right.
Not always solving the problem for them, but letting them think about how would I do this and see what they come up with.
Yes. And it's okay to let them fail.
Yeah.
That was really hard for me. I'm a fixer. So I would try to fix it. And I was like, am I really teaching them anything though if I fix it? No. Yeah. It's okay to let your kids feel disappointed. It's okay to let them not win first place. It's okay, because they need to experience that, and that they can cope with not winning all the time.
Yeah.
Because when they get into the real world, guess what? They're not always going to be first. They're not always going to be the best. And they need to learn that it's okay to not be the first or the best at everything.
Absolutely. I never let my kids win, ever.
Good.
I'm like, you beat me fair and square, because I like to win, and I'm not going to just let you win. You got to earn that. Yeah. For sure. Okay, well, now we can keep talking about something else.
I know.
Oh my God. Okay. But this is the last final question, and you have touched on it really because you talked about loving yourself first. But how I want to just always end the conversation is really, putting ourselves first. And what I would love to know about you is, what do you love about yourself? Because we can look for great things in other people and celebrate other people and see all the good, but sometimes we don't look at that in ourselves. So I would love to know, what do you love about yourself?
I would say I love my sassy, spunky, profanity loving attitude, right? I'm very raw and vulnerable and open, and I'm an open book, right? If people ask me, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I'm going to be kind always, even if I don't feel like someone really deserves it, because if they are being nasty, they probably need kindness the most. Something is going on in their life. So I try to just take a step back and just, okay, what can I learn? I'm in a constant state of learning. If I stop learning, then I might as well just stop existing. Yeah. So I love that about myself, that I'm always open to learning. I want to learn new things. And the best way for me to learn is to teach. Yeah. So that's how I love to dive into topics, is if I want to learn it, I'm going to teach it, because I'm going to learn while I'm teaching, and I'm going to learn from other people. And I just don't ever want to change that about myself.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, you're a lifelong learner, and it is that. I'm exactly the same way. I'm always curious. I'm so curious. Yeah. Like, tell me about that. Like, what do you mean? What is that all about? And even if I'm not going to do anything with it, it's like, but I still want to know it. It doesn't mean I'm going to like go out and do something with it, but like, I do want to know about this. It's really cool, and I can teach other people. And I love that about you, and it is so true. And you are just such a giver as well, and you're so willing to help other people and bring the best out in others. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Yeah. How can people find you? Because they're going to want to know, who is this lady, this fabulous lady?
You can literally just Google Elaine Turso and all the things will come up. I will tell you though, don't click on the ElaineTursophotography.com, because somebody bought my domain name and are using it as a Indonesian gambling website.
What?
Yes. I cannot there is nothing I can do about it. So when people Google my name, it still shows up. And there's nothing I can do about it because I let it go because I was like, I'm done.
Yeah.
But somebody somehow figured out that, wow, this website is available, and it had really great traffic going to it because, so don't click on that. Don't give them the traffic. You
Oh my
can
God,
click on all the other things. I'm all over the internet, in all the places.
cool. Awesome. Well, I will make sure I put that in the show notes so people can find you and locate you on all of the social media platforms.
All the places. Yep. I'm all the places.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here and just being so open and authentic and sassy as usual.
Thank you. It was really fun to talk about the motherhood, something I don't really get to talk about very often.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. And it's just so insightful. So, I know I'm going to be there in a couple years. So it's always, good to hear other people's opinion and that I'm not alone because
You're not alone.
So I'm like, God. And then it's like, okay, you're right. Teenagers suck. So there we go. Thank you.
They just do. I sucked as a teenager.
Love you.
Your kids are going to suck as a teenager too. So.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much. And I'll talk to you soon.
Okay. Bye.